Bring it back.
Welcome to the Endurance Town USA podcast, a state-of-mind destination where endurance athletes of all levels connect. This episode of our Faces Behind the Races miniseries is brought to you by Race Roster, a premier event registration partner for race directors nationwide. I'm Travis Ford, producer and man behind the curtain here at the Endurance Town USA podcast. Today, our host and Race Slow CEO and founder, Samantha Pruitt, traveled to Moab, Utah to sit down with professional endurance athlete, fitness coach, and survivalist Danelle Ballengee. Coach Nellie, as she's commonly known, has helped professional athletes across the spectrum of outdoor specialties take their elite skills to the next level. Included in her personal accomplishments, Danelle holds the female speed record for climbing all 54 of Colorado's 14ers in 14 days and 49 minutes. Sam sat down with Danelle in a beautiful outside space in Moab, Utah, and I'm going to let her take it from here.
Okay, I'm here with Danelle Ballengee in Moab, Utah, hanging out on her patio with her 3 dogs and her 2 boys, and we're going to get to know each other a little bit. How are you?
I'm good.
Thanks for having me over.
Yeah, thanks for coming over.
So I know you a little bit since I've been hanging out here off and on for the last 4 or 5 years, and I'm totally fallen in love with this place now. And I know you're a race director here, so I wanted to reach out. And then working on Primal Quest, getting to know you as an adventure athlete as well. So can you tell me a little bit about what you're doing here and how long you've been?
Okay. So in the year 2000, prior to that, when I was training and racing trying to make it as a professional endurance athlete, I would come down to Moab in the spring and fall as a getaway from the snow and cold of Summit County, Colorado, where I was living at the time. And I loved it down here, just the different landscape and the opportunities for training, for running, biking, and kayaking. And I was coming down here so often that I thought, I need to just get a piece of land or someplace where I can come to when a home base for when I come down to Moab. And I was going to just get like a trailer, travel trailer. And
little
get a
vacation
lot.
home.
Yeah. And eventually I found the house that I'm still living in, and it's a fixer-upper, and ended up buying it, and that was in the year 2000. So I would live here part-time and then in Colorado part-time. And then in 2006, I had the accident with the fall, and that changed my life quite a bit. And I ended up getting a restaurant and owning that. So starting in 2007, I was living in Moab full-time.
Full-time, okay.
Yeah, and now I've got 2 kids, and they go to school here. So just been full-time here ever since.
Love it. Well, did you grow up in Colorado then?
Yeah, I grew up in Evergreen, Colorado, and that's where my parents still live. I was born in Southern California, but when I was about 3 years old, we moved to Colorado. And actually, I went to school with Trey Parker from South Park.
No way.
Yeah, and when I watch South Park, there are a lot of similarities. It's based on... it's obviously not reality, but there are definitely characters and things from my childhood and my school where I went to school. Some of the teachers that I recognize from the show are based on real people. Wow. From that. So, yeah. So I went to school at South Park, basically.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. And, yeah.
Boy, your life would have been so different if you stayed in California. That's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah. It was, well...
You went from being a beach person to a mountain person. Now you're a desert person.
Let's see. I think I was... Well, and actually, I was only in Southern California for a short time. My parents regret actually selling their house in Redondo Beach because...
Darn it.
Real estate. Yeah. And they moved, but it was getting too busy for them there. And they moved actually to Lone Pine, California.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Badwater, base of Mount Whitney.
Yeah. And that's where my sister was born. And then my dad got a job both my parents were school teachers. And he got a job in Colorado, and that's but I spent most of my childhood in Colorado.
How many brothers and sisters?
Just one sister.
One sister?
Younger sister.
Does she still live there?
Yeah, she's in Denver. And she's got 2 kids, my niece and nephew, and they're the same age as my 2 boys.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we have fun family time together with the kids.
Is the whole family, parents, sister, is everyone into the outdoors and adventure like you are?
Not so much as I am, but yeah, they still, they enjoy it. My mom has gotten, the older she gets, the more she seems to get into outdoor adventure.
Oh, wow, okay. How old is she?
75 now. And
Have you done anything cool together?
yeah, we go on hikes and bike rides together, and we travel. We went just last December. We were in Mexico, and we went on a cenote tour, and my 75-year-old mom was jumping off of cliffs and doing zip lines, along with my son was 6 at the time.
Wow.
And, it was fantastic. We had a good time together with the 3 generations doing this, and we went, zip lining, cliff jumping, swimming, snorkeling, hiking through the jungle. And
did they bring you up, you and your sister, to be athletes? At what point did you get into the, let's be an active child?
Growing up, didn't really do much endurance sports.
Okay.
Really none. I mean, we had bikes that we rode a little bit around the neighborhood. We didn't really do much hiking, but we did go camping. And so every summer, they were school teachers, so every summer we would head out and go camping. So I was outside a lot, and, back then they didn't have devices that they have now and video games and stuff, so we would just play, my sister and I would just play outside. And that was part of my personality as a kid, was I would be outside just exploring in the woods and stuff when we were camping. And I played, but my background was soccer.
Oh, okay.
Played soccer.
What age?
I started in Little League soccer. I don't know. I think it was probably 2nd or 3rd grade, playing just rec soccer, and played all the way through high school. Won the state championship soccer team. So that was kind of my background. And then it was actually, believe it or not, the sport of volleyball that got me into endurance sports. I had a coach, or the volleyball team at the high school was really good. And I was into sports, so I wanted to play and be part of that team. But she made a comment to me about my size, and it was an insult to me.
You're not tall enough to be a volleyball player or something?
Yeah, and I knew I wasn't going to, it didn't matter how good my athletic talents would be. It didn't matter how high I could jump, how strong I was, how smart I was at the game, or how good I could serve or dig or whatever. I wasn't going to get a chance to play. I was going to be benched, and I knew it. And so the day after she made that comment, I was like, dang, I want to do a sport where the coach can't decide.
Oh, nice.
I didn't want the coach, I didn't want anybody deciding how good or bad I was at the sport.
Or my potential.
Yeah, or my potential. I wanted to prove it on my own.
How old were you?
This was sophomore in high school.
Okay.
So I tried out. I went immediately to the cross-country team. And the coaches there were amazing. They were totally the opposite of the volleyball coach. They made running fun. And to do that for a high school girl is pretty amazing.
Well, and you and I are the same age. Honestly, it was a little bit different than in sports for females, We didn't they weren't coming after us trying to get us on the team.
No, they weren't.
We had to really want to get anything done athletically.
Yeah, these coaches were so welcoming.
Cool.
And they made it fun, and they didn't push me too hard. They knew kind of to let me push myself as hard as I felt, wanted to do. And I grew to love running then. And I had been into it a little bit. There was a town race in Evergreen, and the whole town kind of went out and did it. And so one year I went out and did it, and but that was sort of like I wasn't really into running. It wasn't until I started cross country that I got more serious about it. And then from there, I ran in college on the CU cross country team, and I was a red shirt. And the jump from high school to college running was so big that I burned out on running, and I got where I just didn't even like running anymore, but I started biking and swimming. I started getting into triathlons.
This is University of Colorado?
Yeah.
Boulder?
This was in Boulder. So I got into triathlons, and that same year, I think it was a sophomore year, and at CU, the triathlon club developed, and
Like late 80s, sort of in the boom?
well, no, this would have been 91.
91, okay.
Yeah, and so I got into triathlon, and then from triathlon, I kind of reverted back a little bit towards running, but more into mountain running with the Pikes Peak Marathon, and I discovered more of the trails just around my house in Evergreen, and found that I just loved, running the trails.
You had like a winning streak of that race in particular, didn't you? Was it at that time?
Yeah, for a while I won it 4 years in a row, and then after the 4 years I got drawn away because that's when adventure racing was starting to grow, and I became part of a team, and at the time it was just right around college, and just after I graduated from college, and I didn't have a real job per se. So I was taking sports. I was living out of my truck, and I would pick whatever race had the most prize money. Mm-hmm. And so that's what got me kind of into adventure racing, was there was some races with some prize money.
Was it that you saw Eco Challenge and Primal Quest and went, this looks insane, I got to do it? Or what was the draw? Was it because you thought you could be good at it?
Yeah, Primal Quest hadn't started yet, but I had seen the Eco Challenge on TV. And I remember watching it thinking that it was just crazy. But I also remember watching it, and how they dramatize it. And I remember seeing these people like out there just suffering, just complaining and stuff. And I remember thinking, wait, I can do this. I love being outside. That doesn't seem that bad. Why are they so upset? And I was like, I think I could do this. The whole thing about the going through the night and going for a week at a time was pretty daunting to me, and that seemed kind of impossible. But I also saw that the part of it that drew me in was just being outside on this adventure, traveling through these countries and through this beautiful landscape. And I thought, that doesn't seem like suffering at all. That looks like fun.
How'd you find a team?
Well, I had gotten into, I was invited to be part of a team.
Okay.
So I was doing triathlon background, and the Xterras had kind of started with the mountain bike triathlon, and I had done the mountain running. So I had the background of all the sports, other than I needed to work on the paddling. But swimming is a good crossover for paddling. And so some guys said, let's see if this girl, she's a pretty good runner, and she can ride a bike. Let's see if she can be your teammate. And
what was the name of your team?
The original team, I can't even remember the first race I did. Was one up in Fort Collins with some guys. I can't remember the team name. Mm-hmm. But about that same time, we had a team called Team Synergy, which was a group of myself and 3 guys, and all of us were endurance athlete backgrounds, but had not done an actual adventure race.
Okay.
And we got into the Eco Challenge in Morocco. Mm. And
you went in big out of the gate.
Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome.
And then I had raced with these other guys. I did it to prepare for the Eco Challenge. Just in that year, I did a couple shorter races, just to get some experience and some practice.
Did your education help in any way? What did you study at university?
Yeah, I started off studying biology, environmental biology.
Nice.
And while I was in college, I realized that the classes I was drawn to were more related to like, it was similar to the classes that those who wanted to become a doctor were interested in. More the anatomy and physiology, kinesiology. And so I ended up halfway through college deciding that I was going to get a double major with kinesiology.
Oh, that had to be helpful.
So there are a lot of the similar classes, but I was really interested in the kinesiology, and having during that time become interested in sports and endurance sports and how the body works and injuries and that kind of thing. The kinesiology, I was drawn to that, and that tied together really good with my interests. I was originally going to be a physical therapist, And I did a internship for at a physical therapy clinic, and the clients that they were working with, I realized, they weren't motivated. They kind of would show up and expect the physical therapist to
Fix me.
cure them. And they weren't self-motivated to do the work on their own, to do the exercises and stuff. And so from there, I kind of got more interested in doing more coaching and personal training. And with coaching and personal training, I was kind of burned out on going to school and classes. And so that kind of drew me away from the physical therapy and more years of college and spending money at college, where I could just go straight into a job. And doing the coaching and the personal training, I was working with people that were motivated and wanted to see a difference and make a difference.
Goal setting.
Yeah. And so I got into that.
So you were doing this
Right after
and you
college.
were racing?
Okay.
Okay.
Racing at the same time.
And you were racing professionally and looking for prize money and going after that?
Yeah, I mean, it was you can't really make it as a, I don't even know nowadays if anybody can make it as a professional
Solely,
endurance
yeah.
athlete,
Right.
but just because it's one of those sports.
Even
where-
if you're sponsored, it's...
Yeah, even if you're sponsored, it's hard. So I was kind of the doing the personal training and the coaching along with the training and the competing. I was able to get by, and that worked, for a little while, and it gave me the flexibility to train at the same time work.
Hey guys, are we all in on this or what? Hey, let's take an aid station break. I want to tell you a little bit about our sponsor, Race Roster. Not only is Race Roster the leading endurance sport industry race registration platform, but they are truly our kind of people. Founded by athletes, their team gets us and it goes all in on helping race directors like me build my business and stay sane. Which many days of the week can be pretty challenging. Grab a demo with them. Find out more. raceroster.com/EnduranceTown USA.
So you got into coaching and personal training as a way to make some money, but also, you have a passion in that too, working with athletes.
Right. Yeah. And I did enjoy working.
Triathlon, or what were you coaching? What kind of sports? Adventure?
Endurance sports in general.
Anything,
And
okay.
I tended to work with more, not your mainstream triathlete. It was more mountain running, trail running. Ultra running hadn't gotten as big at the time. So a few ultra runners and people doing like various multi-sport events, sort of non-mainstream outdoor athletes tended to be. But I also worked at a gym, and I worked with just normal people, that were just looking to, improve their lifestyle and get healthy and get fit. So I had a wide range of clients. And
What did you learn about yourself as an athlete during that time, being a coach and a personal trainer? Like, how did it affect you in your own athletic headspace?
well, I wasn't really thinking about it at the time. It was just what I did, but I mean, I knew that that's what I loved to do. I mean, I knew that, and I knew that it kind of made me, I knew that I was aware of my body, as far as like competing and how I feel and stuff. I knew what was going on inside my body. When I started to need to get to eat, I knew when I was bonking, I knew I needed to eat or I needed to drink, or if I was cramping. So I was more aware of my body, which I think helped in sports, as far as pacing myself and pushing myself and taking care of myself during these long races. Just having that knowledge.
And you were able to convey that to other people and allow them to explore their own limits? Did you encourage that? Was that part of your coaching style, was to get people to sort of take it to the next level?
Yeah. I tried to get them to, I mean, as a coach, I tried to educate them so that they could be, take it on their own.
Yeah.
Be their own coach, so that they were to educate them on these things and to learn through experience. And, so I was sort of their guide and their educator. And then, they were the ones out doing the hard work and stuff. And everybody had different, obviously the goals are something would be the first thing that we would discuss. And some people, were more ambitious than others. Others just wanted to do it for fun and for the experience and just to stay healthy or just to finish. And then I had other clients that were, more into succeeding and trying to win the race or finish top in their category or whatever. So, just depending on the goals. But it was exciting seeing people achieve their goals.
Are you still doing coaching now?
No, I'm not doing it anymore. It was something I really put time and effort into with each client individually, and I just don't have the time now with my own kids and
not at this phase of life.
To devote to that. So maybe someday. I always think maybe I'll get back into it, but not for right now.
You had your big accident. What was it? 2006, where you
December.
fell.
Yeah.
Spent 3 nights out in the wilderness here in the trail system in the wintertime.
Yeah.
Surviving that big crash. Your life had to absolutely, I just can't even fathom some of the stuff that went through your physical and psychological aspects of your life. Moving forward, because you're like an amazing comeback story. Moving forward, how has that changed you? And really, what were your big takeaways there besides the obvious, right? Like surviving. What else?
It slowed me down and gave me, it made me really appreciate life and what I have and what I had done, as far as my athletic career. And it made me really think about a bigger perspective of life as far as like just on a more philosophic level, just thinking about life in general and the purpose of it and enjoying the moments and enjoying the little things. And it slowed me down. Now I can sit outside with my dog and pet my dog for hours and enjoy doing that because and learn to appreciate it. Whereas before I was more into feeling like I needed to stay busy and achieve, and I was focused on the training and the racing and the work and just moving forward, and which was great. I'm glad that at the time I did that, but then after the accident, it just gave me sort of a different perspective of life.
Did you take a personal inventory of your life and decide to, do things different, or did it further instill your own deep values and, just drive home your truth?
Both. You definitely made me think back to my life and everything I've done and to appreciate that part of my life. But then at the same time, it made me think about what other things I want in my life, wanting a family, wanting to, I'd worked so hard through sports all my life and school and getting these 2 degrees and everything. And I wanted to get a time in my life just to enjoy life and be able to have a family and to, become a more whole person, I guess.
Live a little more traditionally,
Yes,
let's say.
yes. Yeah, just to enjoy life.
You also bought a restaurant and owned a business here in Moab, and so that was part of it too, like kind of not a settling down, but maybe just a more mainstream life.
Yeah, well, I knew I wasn't going to be able to race, so I was looking for some sort of...
where do I put all this energy?
Yeah, well, and also where do I pay the bills,
Yeah.
something to do. And at the time, it seemed kind of exciting, having a business of my own. It was something I'd never done, and it seemed something that I'd always thought of how it would be fun to have my own business. And one thing led to another, and it kind of happened fast. And next thing I know, I've got this restaurant and I'm running it, and it was fun. It's fun, it's fun. The people you meet, I met some totally different people. I've been working with athletes and doing these races and working with a whole different. So being in the restaurant industry, I got to meet a whole different type of person.
Whole new tribe.
Yeah, and it was fun and really nice people, and I enjoyed the challenge of it, and I enjoyed the work and the customers, and the restaurant was successful. We were busy, so it was.
That restaurant is off the hook. Mills, I just went there yesterday. Just was going to grab some goodies after doing a mountain bike ride, and it was packed out. I was like, check it out.
Yeah. Well, in Moab right now, every restaurant is packed out. Moab
Summertime
needs more restaurants. Well, just year round even. There's they're building millions of hotels and hotel rooms and short-term rentals, but there's no new restaurants going up. So
yeah, there's a bit of a labor shortage here right now too.
that too. Yeah.
So you decided to also start a family. You've got 2 beautiful boys.
Yeah. Yep.
And they keep you busy
now. Yeah, and they're the best thing that have happened to me. I mean, I love being a mom. I love hanging out with the boys. I love watching them grow up and seeing them change as they get older, and seeing their different personalities. The older one has a similar personality than I do, and the younger one's got a little bit different personality. He's into different things, but he's fun and he makes me laugh, and it's great. Raising the kids is great.
You do a lot of outdoor stuff with them?
Yep, definitely.
You were playing soccer till 11 o'clock last night?
Yeah, we're playing soccer, and I'm the soccer coach. I'm
Nice.
the basketball coach. I even coached football a couple times.
Are you serious?
Well, just filled in.
That's awesome.
The boys, I don't think, respected me as much. But I filled in and had a fun time with it. So, yeah, and then both my kids did the trail marathon last year.
They ran it?
Yeah.
What?
In fact, Noah has run they didn't do the marathon, there's a 5K.
Okay.
Noah's done the 5K the last 3 years, and he does pretty good. And then Will, the younger one, does the Kids K, and he loves it. And then Noah did off-road duathlon last spring, trail run, mountain bike, and he did great. I mean, he did great.
Wow.
And then we travel and try to take them to explore different areas and do some outdoor stuff. They definitely haven't gotten into it at the same level that I got into it, but I didn't get into it till more high school, college. And so they're kind of into it now more for fun, and they do enjoy sports and stuff. So we'll see what happens if they get older, if they like it, or if they don't. If they do something different, that's fine too. But
those are your races that you own in Race Direct. When did you start your company in terms of race production?
I started actually in 1994, right when I graduated from college.
Oh, already? Okay.
Yeah, so during that time I was racing a lot. I just loved racing, being with the people and the challenge and the races and seeing these different courses and doing different types of races, everything from snowshoeing and skiing to triathlon and quadrathlons and mountain running. And so
Quadrathlon, what is that?
well, the one that I in particular that I loved to do was the Mount Taylor Winter Quadrathlon, and it was road biking, running, cross-country skiing, and snowshoeing.
What? All in one race?
Yeah, and you would actually start in this little town, this small little cute town in New Mexico, and you'd do all these 4 different sports to the top of Mount Taylor, which was a significant peak just outside of the town, and you'd ride, run, ski, snowshoe to the top of it, and then you do everything back down. Snowshoe, ski, run, and ride
That's
back
awesome.
and finish into town. And the whole town would come out for it, and it was a fun event that drew a good crowd of people. And so that was the one. I did that one. I've got 9 wins there, and I don't think I'll ever get that 10th, but
The race still happens.
it still happens. Yeah, I know it's kind of in a bit of a slump, I think, at the moment, and they were talking about maybe not having it, but hopefully they could keep it going. It's kind of.
Why did you launch your own race, and what was the first one?
Yeah, so I growing up in Evergreen, and there was discussion of I had just done one year. I had done the Evergreen Triathlon, and it was like my hometown triathlon. So it was kind of a cool thing to come home and do the race, and I did pretty well. I think I was 19 or 20 at the time, and then there was discussion of the race was going to die. The race director was moving on to something else. And so I had the opportunity to take over that race, having no idea what I was getting into. But the main motivation at the time was, I don't want this race to die. You know,
Right.
people really like it. This is my hometown. I know the area. It's where I grew up. And so I ended up taking over the Evergreen Triathlon. And that was in 1994. I had no idea what I was doing, but ended up somehow pulling off a pretty good sized race. And, you know,
Did you just love it? Like, did you do it, finish the race because it's such hideous amounts of work and just go, I love this? Or were you like, this is ridiculous, I'm out?
I was like, this is ridiculous. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I
Not
didn't sleep
sustainable.
for like 3 nights, and there was so much stress. And, but then somehow, you know, and there was little problems that I was having to solve left and right. But somehow once that all worked out and I got rested and got spit out the other side, there was the people that said, hey, that was cool. Mm-hmm. And that was like, okay, maybe I can do this. You know, maybe I can use this as a learning experience, and maybe I can do this. And so I kind of, you know, regrouped and attempted to learn more. And so that was in 94. So what, 20 some years later?
Just a few years.
I'm still learning. I'm still learning. Things change and things evolve. But
You've had different races
Yeah.
in Colorado and here in Moab, right?
yeah, I had the races in Colorado, and then I organized. And then for a while, the Evergreen Triathlon became, well, Evergreen grew up, you know, and the traffic became so bad that it ended up not being possible to do it in Evergreen on those courses, just because of the way the town had grown.
Okay.
So I kind of moved the races, and then I kind of cut back to doing some smaller events, like snowshoe races. So I did several, like a snowshoe racing series and a
You were
winter
producing?
yeah, and a winter triathlon series. And I did some off-road duathlons, off-road triathlons. So I would do several smaller races, and that was good at the time because they were fun and they were quaint, and everybody was friends. They had a good atmosphere, and I always added a little bit of adventure. I became known to have courses that had some sort of
Twists and
adventure,
turns.
challenging.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
looking for some, you know, something unique to make it happen. And I kept them fairly small so that they were manageable, and tried to, you know, learn a lot during that time. And that was when I was living in Summit County in Dillon, Colorado. And then when I moved out to Moab, I stopped doing races. I was kind of burned out. I had been doing it for a lot of years and kind of burned out. So I actually stopped organizing races. And then I had, for probably 2 years, did not organize races. And then I had a gentleman from Canada, and he had organized a trail event up in Vermont that I had went and done and loved it. The Ultimate XC it was called, and he contacted me about doing a run course in Moab. And I was like, you know, yeah, it's a great place for, you know, a run course, you know, the trails here, and I knew the trails. And so I kind of used my maps and my imagination and my experience from being out there, and came up with this loop, which ironically was part of the loop was on the route where I fell. I think part of my motivation for including that was almost my recovery from the accident of proving to myself that I didn't do anything stupid. It was just an accident.
Yes.
You know, kind of has always been in the back of my head. Like, did I do something? You know, people ask, you know, why didn't you do this or that? And I always wonder, did I do something? Was it just an
Second-guessing.
accident, or did I do something wrong? So the race course goes right past it, and we've not had any accidents in 10 years. But but that was part of the course.
And it is part of it's a trail. You weren't like spelunking up a mountain doing some off trail doing,
Well, it's definitely not a trail. It's a section of the course where you're connecting one trail to another.
Okay.
So it's a route, but
Okay.
it's not a designated trail or whatever.
Not a well-established trail.
Yeah, it's
The dog's chiming in.
it's sort of become a trail because the race course goes there. But it was no different, that route, even though it wasn't an actual designated trail. It's no different than, I mean, it's much more tame than what we used to do in adventure racing. And it's no different than, dozens of the trails around here in Moab or anywhere else.
And this is
In the
a
world.
Moab Trail Marathon.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. So it started off as the Ultimate XC, and it was the gentleman from Canada was the race director, and I just did the course. And we did that for a couple years, and then he kind of realized that trying to organize a race in Moab from Canada was difficult, and so he kind of backed off, and I'm not sure, he moved on to some other things. And so the race didn't happen for a year, and I said, I've got the course, I had gotten all the permits, I had gotten all the volunteers, everything was kind of, I'd basically organized the whole race, and he had just done the advertising, and the registration, the website and stuff. And I said, well, I think I could pull this off. I don't want this race to die. It's an amazing course, amazing place. Moab's a great destination for people to come and spend a weekend or a week and to do a race. And
How many years have you been doing it now?
So this will be the 10th. This will be the 9th year in November.
Okay.
And then so we'll probably do something big next year for the 10th.
Is it the
year.
first weekend in November?
Yeah.
Cool. Is there ever snow on the ground?
No,
Okay.
we had one year where we had rains, and it rained pretty heavy, and we had some flash flooding, and it was, as a race director, I was holding my breath the whole time. I was really nervous, but for the racers, it ended up being amazing because there wasn't so much rain that it was dangerous, but there was enough rain that there was waterfalls coming off
Awesome.
the cliffs everywhere, and everybody's
beautiful.
feet got wet, but it wasn't so cold. They were running, and as long as they kept moving, it wasn't cold. And just amazing scenery, and it's amazing how the scenery changes, when the weather changes with the rain. So it ended up being pretty neat, but every other year it's been no snow.
Have you ever produced an adventure race here?
No.
Okay.
I haven't produced an adventure race yet. It's always in the back of my mind, but haven't.
Well, hopefully you're going to work
produced
with
one.
us on Primal Quest.
That would be fun. Yeah. I've set up lots of little adventure courses for my friends, and I head out on set my own little adventure course and do it for trading and stuff, but never actually produced one.
At one point, you were also climbing significantly, right? So, do I have this correct that
Never been a climber.
you never did climbing? Okay.
No, I always managed to get through the ropes courses of the adventure race, but definitely never got into climbing.
Were you doing peaks?
Peaks, yes.
Okay, you were bagging
Mountaineering.
peaks, so you were
Yeah.
mountaineering. Got it. And at what point was that in this adventure
Oh,
athlete endurance space?
yeah, so the 14ers of Colorado have always kind of been appealing to me. And just right during college, I remember going up with some college buddies and hiking some of the 14ers in Colorado and just loving it. I'm definitely drawn to the mountains and the challenge of hiking a peak and being up at altitude, and the views and stuff have always been appealing to me. And I had heard of this was during college, I had heard of a guy that climbed all the peaks in a row.
In Colorado?
Yeah,
How
all
many
the
are there?
14,000 foot peaks. So there's 54 of them.
54 peaks
Yeah,
over 14,000
14,000
feet in
feet.
Colorado?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this guy had went out and did it. Took him 2 or 3 weeks to do it, and he did it. He was going for the speed record, and I was like, "Whoa, cool!" Because I just love the peaks, and so I kind of in the back of my mind had this idea of doing it. but I was doing adventure races at the time. And then there was a guy that said, hey, I was telling him about, this idea I had, and he said, I'll crew you. And I was like, okay. So I got a crew. Now I'm committed.
Here
so
we go.
I picked a date, and
What time of year did you do it?
and it was July of 2000,
Okay.
and went and did it.
All of them?
This was and did all 54 of them. And it was definitely one of the hardest things I've ever done, but also one of the coolest things I've ever done. And, when I look back on it, it was pretty amazing. And I had lots of challenges. The thunderstorms were horrific during
Scary.
the time. Yeah. And then I got behind pace. And so I was off pace. I was trying to set the record, and I got behind, and where I wasn't going to set the record. And my crew had to get back to work. So during the middle of it, I decided that, yes, I'm off pace from getting the men's record, but I still am going to establish a women's record, and I still, have a chance of completing this. So I was able to recruit a new crew to finish it up, so my old crew could go back to work. and I was only
Selfless service.
I was less than a day off of the men's record when
Wow.
I finished it. I made up some time at the end.
So what was the actual time overall?
So it took me 14 days, 14 hours, and 49 minutes to do all the peaks.
So
and-
that's still the speed record for the females?
Yeah, the men have since broken the record. I think they're down to 12 days, or maybe just under 12, or maybe, I'm not even sure. I know there's been several guys that have gone out and done it and have broken the record. And actually one of the guys, Teddy Kaiser, I helped crew him for a little bit when he set the record. That was shortly after I had done the 14ers. And I think his record has since been broken, possibly by Andrew Hamilton. But I don't even know of a female that's attempted it.
Really?
I think more females are, in general, more intelligent than myself or the guys, because it is a bit risky.
Yes.
Just mainly the weather. Hitting a good pocket of weather is, I think, the key to succeeding in it. If you have, good weather. I had a couple peaks where I would get most of the way up to the top, and then I would have to drop back down because the thunderstorms were so bad and so dangerous. Or I would have to sit and wait until the storm cleared and then hit the peak. So I think trying to get a good pocket of weather is important to succeed in that.
Wow. The sense of adventure is, obvious in terms of like who you are as an individual, but like what are those core values that were either instilled in you or you built yourself from the ground up, whether it came from your family, your parents, that makes you search out challenges like this?
Yeah, and to be honest, I think about that myself too. Like, I have no idea. And now that I'm older with raising kids and, having injuries and stuff, I still have the drive to get out and explore and to do things, but I don't have the motivation that I used to, or the discipline to train, where I would, I'd be very disciplined and wouldn't miss a day of training. And then, like, even, I did a race last weekend, and if I felt tired, I just slowed down. Whereas before, when I was younger and competing, I didn't slow down. I would push through. And I look back now, and I don't know how I did it. I don't know where it came from or how I got this motivation. And, it was just something I can't explain. But something I look back at myself and I'm like, how in the world did I do all those peaks? And, or I'll be out in an adventure race, like the one last weekend, and I'll have this moment where, I don't feel like pushing myself. So I ended up just slowing down and enjoying it. And it's like, how did I push through back in the day, like I did, to succeed and to win these races, and pushing through the pain and the suffering and, just continuing on day after day after day.
Your lens has shifted, right?
Yes, it has.
Your lens and how you see the world is so different. Do you feel, was the big shift the accident, or was it before that you already felt a transitioning out of a more competitive space with that singular vision and drive to something that needed to be bigger, broader, more, well-rounded, I guess.
I think it was once I had kids. That's
okay.
when it seemed like I shifted and my priorities shifted. And
Now your energy is raising good humans and instilling values in them.
yeah, and and also, I mean, there was at the time there was a motivation. I knew I could succeed, and I knew I could do well in the race, and so there was a motivation to push myself to do that. And now, I'm older with injuries, and I don't have that kind of conditioning. So now I just have more of a, get through it and have fun attitude. So, but kids definitely, like, I worry about getting hurt.
Sure.
Where I used to be
Seriously hurt.
more reckless when I was younger, because I could. I mean, it was just me. And
Yeah.
and also through experiences, you start to get fear in you over the years of what could happen. Whereas when you're younger, those things don't cross your mind until after you've had these, close calls and experiences. So now I'm just more aware of the risk involved. Whereas when I was younger, it's just more go for it, experiencing it.
I'm just very curious if there's something in you that you discovered during this journey so far, and you're very young, so you're not even halfway there yet, girl. At least that's how I like to think of myself, since we're the same age.
I hope.
Yeah.
I think I'm a little over the hill.
Where you really learned something different about yourself that you didn't know, like something that was maybe surprising.
Well, I think there's been several times. I look at it as phases in my life. I think that day that I quit the volleyball team and joined the cross country team, that was a moment when I was like, hey, I could do this for myself. I don't need to let somebody else dictate.
And you were 15.
What I can and can't do. I was a sophomore. Yeah, sophomore in high school then. And then I think, as I got more into the endurance sports and the long distance sports and the adventure races, learning how to push through the suffering and the bad times, knowing that you can make it through it. So there's times in long distance races, even in triathlons like Ironmans and whatever, you're going to have slumps and moments when you feel so bad, and but I would work through those and feel good again. And I think that was kind of significant, just knowing that the human body is pretty resilient and can push through things. You just got to give it a little care, give it a little time, some water, some food, some electrolytes, whatever it needs, and stay positive, positive attitude. And so I think that occurred, probably mid 90s or early 90s, when I took the endurance sports to the next level of competing, was the ability to kind of push through. And then after my accident in 2007 was definitely a life changer as far as the attitude and looking at life with a new perspective. And then having kids, and raising them was another time in my life where I learned a lot about myself and a new perspective, and learning a lot from the kids too.
I love that in those earlier lessons, the theme I heard was one around understanding recovery as an athlete and a human, and the value of that during a race, after a race, etc., taking self-care. But then the next level, even deeper and more profound, is the sense of self-knowing and self-love, like to be able to give yourself that space to heal in all of these different environments and know that you're worth that investment in order to move forward. Like, that's so huge. And I know a lot of athletes and actually just humans, right? We struggle with that piece. Like our value system for ourselves might really be connected in our success. And so when we aren't doing well, that's a huge demon for a lot of people. And you gave yourself the space to heal, recover, and come back.
Yeah, well, and I also think that, at least for me, I look at it more from the success is only a small portion of why I do these endurance sports and why I do it. Even with race directing, a bigger part of it is just enjoying what I'm doing and looking at other aspects besides this as a success. So I could lose a race, or if I'm if I'm as a race director, if I lose money in the race, but the people have a great time, and I meet some people, volunteers or whatever, that are fun people to be around, and I have a great time setting the course. And that's okay. Like I try to look at it at a little bit bigger perspective rather than just the final numbers or the final race time. I look at the journey along the way, and if I'm enjoying that, then I'm happy. It's just success is more than winning or than making money or whatever. For me, it's more important to enjoy the process.
Mm-hmm. And so with that said, what are some of your next projects? Raising 2 boys, do you have anything else on the horizon that are personal goals that might be completely outside of the athlete space? Maybe it's something completely different and new.
Yeah, I mean, right now, raising the boys is my priority. And then, I've got the 2 dogs the 2 of my dogs are 15 and 16. So I don't know how much longer they'll be around. So I'm kind of hanging out with them for a while. But I would like to, I have this idea in my mind of doing more travel.
Oh, okay.
That's one part of racing that I've always enjoyed, is the travel and going to different countries, and not just seeing different landscapes, but just getting to know different cultures and different people and different languages. And so I would like to take the boys to maybe the Caribbean and spend a few months living there and put them in a school where they have to speak Spanish.
Oh, awesome.
My one boy's really into soccer, and his favorite team is Real Madrid. So he's trying to talk me into moving to Spain. And
sounds pretty amazing.
I'm totally for it. Moving to Spain, and so I'd like to expose my sons to the world, to different cultures and scenery and stuff like that, so that they could get a different perspective. And I think for me, that was a big part of growth, is once I started traveling to different countries and meeting different people and different cultures and languages, and like doing these adventure races where we're passing through these little villages, and it gives you a whole different perspective on life when you see the way these people live and you see how happy they are with so little. And it made a difference to me, and I respect the way these people live, and so I think it would be fun just to travel more and maybe come back to a home base.
Yeah, this isn't a bad home base you've got going here.
Yeah,
this is pretty sweet.
But just to be able to travel to different countries and see it before things get too destroyed or messed up, it would be fun to travel more. So that's kind of my hope for the future.
Well, that sounds like an incredibly reasonable goal, frankly. I mean, I agree with you. I feel like more people need to get out into the world, and in 2 different ways, right? One is just like the outdoor athlete space. It could be literally their own town in the trail system or the waterways or whatever that they haven't experienced and they live right there. Or just outdoor having adventures, like the ones that we love. But yeah, traveling internationally and understanding different cultures. I even find that going to different states right? So
Yeah.
I'm traveling now. My husband and I moving from California to Utah, back and forth, and talking about other possibilities. And it's so cool to come into different communities and meet the locals and really understand the history like of this town. So we've
Yeah.
connected with a lot of locals, and learning about the history of this town is fascinating.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And this is just a small microcosm of America, right?
Yeah.
But you go
yeah.
international, and that's just a whole.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Our kids need to have those experiences.
Yeah, I think there'd be more world peace if people would travel
More compassion, without a
yeah,
doubt.
yeah.
I love how the dogs keep rolling in here. So Taz is the dog that rescued you, obviously,
Yeah,
huh?
he's 16 now. He's still getting around.
He looks pretty good.
He's doing okay. Yeah, his hips
Hometown hero.
He is. He's pretty humble though.
He doesn't want the interview. He's walked away. I love it.
Yeah. He heard us talking about him. And he's like, I'm out of here.
Books or movies or anything like that you got in the works or that you care about?
Well, let's see. The only book, I've had people ask me about a book, and I always thought that it would be the Taz's life with me as his owner, from his perspective of, him and I going through this,
That is a
16-year
cool idea.
journey together, because he's kind of been there with me, and just the whole our connection. And he's been my training partner, and he's been there with the kid, through the kids and everything. And I'm not the type of person that I don't like talking about myself. I'm pretty private. I prefer just to kind of, I like to go out in the woods and run for hours, by myself or with maybe just my teammates or something like that. But I'm not a very social person as far as going out and about and to parties and
Public.
I can't barely get myself to the supermarket. The Amazon Prime. I love the Amazon Prime.
That's awesome.
But I thought it would be fun to instead, have Taz tell the story, our story.
I love that.
Would be kind of a fun way to do a book. That's just kind of been in the back of my mind.
Do you do much writing?
No.
No?
No. I'm not.
Nowadays, you could just storytell through, media.
Yeah,
objects,
and
of course.
I don't even do much storytelling. It's all inside me, the thoughts. I could sit in thought, or I could run. I think that's what keeps me going when I'm on a long bike ride or a long run. Is when I'm exercising, I could keep those thoughts flowing. But to try to tell, I've never been very good at putting those thoughts into writing or putting those thoughts into words. But I suppose if I was to do a book, I could sit down and either record
Talk
the
it
thoughts,
through.
or write the thoughts with, just take time to do it. But no, I'm not very good at doing that, and I haven't done that much. But it might be a fun thing to do in the future.
Oh, that could definitely happen.
And then as far as giving back, the community giving back.
Well, your
to
races give back.
They do.
You're giving
They
back
do.
every day by the nature of who you are.
Yeah, right now I would have to say that, my race, and I also donate to a lot of the local nonprofits that I feel are, but I feel right now the environment is important, and I wish there was more that I could do. I almost feel like there's so many, the issues right now are so big that it's almost kind of overwhelming
I
to
agree.
me, and I almost
agree.
feel like, gosh, what can I do? And I find it's hard enough just to keep my feet on the ground as making a living and raising the kids. That I have these ideas of how things could be changed or different, but the reality of actually doing it is just kind of overwhelming. But maybe
Which sounds like a typical entrepreneur and business owner, by the way, since we we have that kinship. Like we like to do big audacious things, right? We like challenges, but sometimes we overwhelm ourselves with the fact that it's so big and so audacious.
Yeah.
And really forget that we can do these little micro things every day in our own home, in our own town, with our kids, with our friends.
Right.
And the fact that we get to do this for a living. and touch so many hundreds and thousands of lives every year, that's pretty significant.
Yeah, I would like to think so.
It is.
And I do. I mean, I've got people that will write me or call me or talk to me after the race and been like, "You just changed my life." And I like to think that by providing opportunities to get people out in nature, that they will respect it more.
That's
and
right.
that will carry over. And also, kids, I've got a kids race, and getting kids out exercising and doing stuff. I think nowadays we're seeing people more just into their devices in their offices and their homes, and less outside talking to people and exploring nature. So I think working with kids and getting them out there exploring it is important. And I try to do that. Like, I have the kids race. I volunteer at the kids school. I did a program at the elementary school with the third graders. We called it Fun Friday. And it was an hour on Friday, and I would set up like a scavenger hunt.
Outside.
Yeah, we did different. Every Friday we did something different. Where I got the kids outside. I tried to do some sort of educational part of it, and I also tried to do some sort of physical activity.
Nice.
And get the kids running around, moving, walking, using a compass, using a map.
Oh my gosh, we're going to definitely recruit you for this Primal Quest family adventure camp we're building. Oh,
Yeah.
I love it.
And it was great getting the kids out. And there was some kids that you could tell they had never. During the Olympics, we did I tried to simulate the Olympics up at the elementary school, and we did like a bobsled, and we had different Olympic skiing
cool.
activities and stuff. And there was kids that had never I don't think they don't spend any time outside. They're just inside.
Yeah.
And so I would just get them out. And I remember the one little girl on the bobsled, and it was basically a skateboard, and she got belly down on the skateboard and pushed her down the ramp, and oh man, she had the best time ever. And it was so huge for her. But just getting kids outside and doing these opportunities, and some of the kids, they had their Google map, and they had to find the 34 checkpoints around the school, and some of them just got
34, wow.
Yeah, well, that was my son's fault. He said, "Mom,"
That's a bit extreme.
he says, "Mom, I want at least," because I would do 10 or something like that. He says, "Mom, I want to," and he's, my son's the one that takes off running and just going whatever direction trying to find the checkpoints, and you're supposed to answer questions at each of them, and he's more into the running part of it. So that would be because he's my son that he's doing that.
Just go. Ask questions later. Just go.
He's like, "I want at least 30 checkpoints at this next one." I said, "Okay, Noah." So I did 30 checkpoints.
awesome.
And some of the kids were so into it. Some of them only found a few.
Sure.
But they got all the questions right. But it's fun just seeing the kids do this. And even last night playing soccer with the kids, and getting them out there, and we had a fun time, and it was competitive, but it was fun. And I think that the kids are our future. If we could get them to be more friendly and less competitive, but still motivated, and get them outside, I think that our future could be better. I think we have sort of gotten in this little slump now that we need to snap out of.
Oh, totally.
And I would like to see adventure racing grow too. I think adventure racing's a little bit in a slump, and I think our
Not
next
for long,
generation,
lady. Yeah.
I think our next generation, we're starting to see different attitudes.
Yeah.
With the new generation of kids, where they're more have the mindset that a couple generations ago used to have, of just getting out there and exploring and being with their friends and going through this journey together. So I think there's hope that the sport will make a comeback and continue to grow.
And you're going to be on that ride with us.
I hope so.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I really, really appreciate your time and you welcoming me into your home and meeting your dogs and your boys. This is fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
And
Good
now
to meet
that I'm
you too.
here part-time, I'm sure we'll have a few adventures together. Who
Yeah.
knows? So thanks for having me out here and welcoming me into your home. Meet your dogs and your boys. And I look forward to having some adventures with you. Hopefully, I'll be back in town soon, and we can do some fun stuff together, and we'll be hearing back from you again. I'd love to have you back on the podcast.
Yeah, that's
We'll keep
great.
this story
Yeah.
going.
Yeah, well, thanks.
Thanks.
And I'm glad you're in Moab, and that sounds fun.
Yeah,
Do lots of adventures together.
let's do it, lady. And that's a wrap.
A tremendous thank you to Coach Nellie for carving out so much of your time to sit down with Sam today. If you'd like to know more about Danelle Ballengee, follow her online at trainingrx.com, or you can follow her on Facebook at Moab Trail Marathon and also at Journey Racing. You can also follow Samantha Pruitt through Instagram at the Samantha Pruitt. And thank you for joining us on this adventure to Endurance Town, USA, where we get to sit down and chat with regular people living an incredible endurance lifestyle. Thanks again to our partners at Race Roster for making this Faces Behind the Races miniseries possible. If you haven't yet, hit the subscribe button on your device now to hear more great stuff as it lands. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Endurance Town, USA for fun behind-the-scenes photos, videos, and more. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you next time we go on this journey to Endurance Town, USA.
Bring it back.